The other day, I was talking to this nice lady, and she lives here in Mexico, but she's from the US. And she was explaining how every time she goes out and she has to speak with Spanish speakers, she gets scared because she thinks her Southern accent makes it hard for locals to understand her Spanish. If this is you, if you feel like your accent makes it hard for people to understand you when you're speaking Spanish, this video is for you. I'm going to give you 3 practical tips that's going to help you reduce your accent, improve your pronunciation, and build your confidence in Spanish. My name is Kim Anzora. I'm a Spanish teacher and writer, and I help expats, immigrants, and travelers get comfortable with everyday, practical conversational Spanish. Okay, let me say this. Locals are not expecting you to speak perfect Spanish. When they see you and they realize that you're a foreigner, I can bet all the little coins in my pocketbook that they're not thinking that what's about to come out of your mouth is free-flowing, accent-free Spanish. You are a fully grown adult and your native language is wired into your brain. You have a system of phonics or sounds that guide you on how to pronounce letters and words and syllables. You have rules for the structure of sentences and questions. You have thousands and thousands of words attached to meaning that help you verbally express yourself. You got cultural expressions or idioms full of humor and irony and flavor. You already have an intricate system of language that's been functioning in your brain for decades. So you can expect that system of language to impact your new language. And that's perfectly fine. And I think Spanish speakers understand that. Just how you understand when someone is trying to speak English, whose native language is something else, that they're probably going to have an accent, especially in the beginning. It's you that needs to get comfortable with the idea that you have an accent in Spanish. It's always going to sound more pronounced in the beginning, but over time, as you practice your pronunciation, as you engage with Spanish speakers, you're going to notice that your accent is going to be reduced, your pronunciation is going to improve, and you're going to feel more confident. But you have to push through that fear. The fear of sounding different, the fear of hearing your accent come through when you're speaking Spanish, the fear of feeling awkward because you don't know if you're making a mistake, and the fear of just making a whole bunch of mistakes. Because if you don't push through it, you're never going to get to the other side. Now, I'm not going to downplay the fear. The fear is real and it's natural and it's valid. So you'll have to push yourself to go out there and speak and engage with Spanish speakers, even when it feels awkward. In my Spanish classes, I have weekly assignments where I gently push my students to go out into the community and have conversations with Spanish speakers. I know that in the beginning, for some of my students in week 1, that activity is daunting and scary. But by week 8, I can see the confidence soar. So I'm going to give you some homework. But don't worry, you don't have to leave your house. But it's 3 practical tips that's going to help you improve your pronunciation and help you reduce your accent in Spanish. Let's start with number 1. Master the vowels. There are only 5 vowels in Spanish, and they each have 1 sound. Thank the heavens. Because in English, we've got around 20 sounds for the vowels. So you can imagine what it's like for people learning English, because those vowels are sometimes unpredictable. But in Spanish, the 5 vowel sounds stay the same always. And the beauty is, you already know the Spanish vowel sounds because we have those same sounds in English. When people talk about the gringo accent, what they mean is people are trying to pronounce Spanish words with English phonics. And so it doesn't sound like Spanish. And I'm sure I get on my students' nerves because we do pronunciation drills at the beginning of every class. It doesn't matter if they're beginners or if they're more advanced. We're going to do those pronunciation drills because I want them to speak clear Spanish. It's so important to practice your pronunciation so that people can understand you. If you want to see a practice video on Spanish pronunciation or vowel sounds, let me know down in the comments below. Number 2, slow down. Focus on clarity and not on speed. What good is it to speak fast in Spanish if nobody understands what you're saying? Slowing down gives your brain time to think about the words you're pronouncing. It also gives your mouth time to clearly pronounce the sounds of letters, syllables, and words. That rapid fire Spanish you want, That can come later, after you've built a solid foundation in Spanish pronunciation, because it makes no sense to speak fast or to speak slow for that matter, and people don't understand what you're saying. And the other thing is, when you're speaking slowly and carefully, people are generally patient, especially when they see that you're trying to make the effort to speak their language. People really appreciate you trying to speak the language in their country, especially if you're an immigrant or an expat and you live in one of those hotspots, like those digital nomad hotspots where there are a lot of English speakers. Because I'm sure you've seen people walk into cafes and restaurants and whatever else, and they just start speaking English and they expect to be accommodated. But if you've arrived to this point in this video, I know you're different. You really want to make connections with the people in your community via the language. Un aplauso. If you found tip number 1 or 2 helpful, please give me a like or subscribe. Okay, this is your third and final tip. Listen and shadow Spanish language programs. Think TV series, movies, YouTube shows. You want to find something that you're really interested in or something that's on your Spanish level. Let me explain. You might like a thriller or a drama like Monarca on Netflix, or you might like Nailed It Mexico or Nailed It Spain, also on Netflix, or you might like Plaza Sésamo, which is on YouTube, and you could probably guess what Plaza Sésamo is. I recommend watching the show all the way through with English subtitles first, just so you know what the heck is going on. Then go back and watch it again, but with Spanish subtitles. You want to see how the words are spelled while they're being pronounced, and then start shadowing. Now, how in the world do you do that? Well, you're going to play the video in small chunks. You're going to play one sentence, and then you're going to stop the video and try to mimic that one sentence exactly how you heard it. So you're going to try to mimic the intonation of words, the pronunciation of words, the inflections, the rhythm with which the actor spoke. You're going to try to mimic all of that. And then to take it a step further, you can record yourself on your cell phone. So play the video, then record that one sentence on your cell phone, and then compare the original audio with how you sounded. Listening and shadowing trains your brain to recognize Spanish sounds, and it trains your mouth to form the Spanish words more clearly. And soon you're going to notice that your native language is going to interfere with your Spanish less and less, but you have to be consistent. Now, I wasn't always a believer in shadowing, but I have some students who swear by it. And when I tell you that their pronunciation is amazing, it's because it's amazing. It's really impressive. But they're consistent and they watch shows that they're interested in. And that's the key. You have to be consistent and you have to find a show that you really like, because that's what's going to keep you motivated to show up for your practice. Don't forget to download all 3 of these tips in the description box below. And if you found this helpful at all, please give me a like and subscribe and share this with a friend who's scared to speak with native speakers. Un abrazo y hasta el próximo.